I'll start by letting everyone do their own personal intros, a quick on who you are and what brings you here. I'll start with Jack.
So my name's Jack Diefenbach. As you heard, I'm the leader of the Polygon Boston Guild. What I do is I bring the Boston community together and try and educate and empower people to found their own projects, build something amazing, and learn more about this technology and give people opportunity to do so.
Thank you, Jack. Hey everyone, great to see you. My name is Vince. I previously served, so I've actually been building communities in the blockchain space for about 6 years now. I built one of Stanford's largest crypto clubs back in 2017. I then served as head of community, co-founder and CEO of a project called Pi Network. It's a mobile-first crypto that scaled to over 3 million daily active users while I was CEO, and it still has now gone on to be, I think there are about 45 million people worldwide that use that application. Currently building Knomad, which is the world's first professional network built on trust and leverages a decentralized trust protocol that I learned from my company, Pi. Great to be here.
My name is Gregory Molinar. I'm co-founder of Stay Bizze, which is a digital business card networking tool that we are in the final phases of finishing off. And over the last year, my brother and I saw the opportunity to be the ones that brought blockchain and leading tech into the city that we're from, Fall River. And so since last November, we have been also focused on that.
Cool. What's up, everybody? I'm Bill Ramos. I launched a project last year called Dungeon Miners, which is a NFT-based blockchain game. Working on the second one in my off time to hopefully do some more cool, innovative things. I'm just a tinkerer, developer. I like to build some cool stuff, and I think that blockchain gives us a unique place and some unique technologies to leverage to do some really cool things. So yeah, before we go on also, 5 days ago, had a baby. I can't believe you're here.
Oh, hey.
I'm like very impressed that you're here with like no sleep, so keep it up.
Well, thank you everyone for introducing. Greg, congratulations again. I'm Maxwell Lyman, your moderator, and I'm the CEO of Solon Labs. We're developing infrastructure that allows for front ends to be decentralized and as user-friendly as Web2 applications. To start us off, everyone likes to talk about Web3 as being this almost separate country, this isle, this idea that it can give us hope to create a better life for us and our families. The reality is it proposes a system where human beings are removed from the equation, where we can have permissionlessness and trustlessness. So the first question I have for you guys is, how do you envision Web3 being different from previous iterations of the web in terms of global empowerment?
I envision Web3 as being much more different from the previous versions of web as something where people can actually take control of the things that they own, that they don't have to rely on a third party to make sure that their assets are being custodied in a reliable way, that people aren't taking undue risks without their permission, rehypothecating assets without their knowledge, and also having this idea that we can run a world through protocols where we can have as minimal corruption as possible so that we can sort of eliminate the human natural evil from the equation as much as we can.
So one thing I'll say, which is a little bit of a perhaps controversial take, is that I'm a social scientist by training, and I actually believe that while crypto and blockchains can enable, yes, trustless environments, and I think in some more extreme cases you need to have purely trustless environments, I would argue that the magic of it actually is the fact that it allows us to scale trust at a much larger and wider scale than we've previously been able to achieve as a species. And that's really what gets me really excited about this. That goes along with a shared sense of ownership, basically, in the things that we build in the world, which, as we all know right now, is not shared and often very unequal. So I would just offer those two additional points.
Speaking from like the creator's side of it, I think it's done a lot. I don't think it's done a lot. I personally know some musicians, some artists that it's totally changed their lives. It changed the way that they're able to do business without having to trust other people, agents, managers, so on and so forth. And I think also that it's still at its very beginning of being used by creators to its maximum potential.
I think it's a double-edged sword. I think that there's a lot of positive that comes out of having a decentralized place for you to transact. For people who are in communities where they don't have access to specific things and they don't have trust in the people running their local governments and things like that, I think there's a lot of opportunity to remove the human from the equation and run it through a protocol and kind of trust the code and not the person, right? But the other part of that is when you have control yourself over the assets you own, and you are responsible for what happens to them without having a centralized place for you to like reclaim what was stolen if something gets stolen, and you have to be technically literate to be able to use some of these tools. And also I think still the major barrier is to transact on any network, you need to turn fiat at some point into crypto to then vote if you're going to use it as a DAO. I think a DAO is a great model for like local government and having your voice heard and verifiably heard. But the fiat on-ramps are going to be controlled by some centralized place. There's still some level of kind of centralization that needs to exist for it to be kind of globally accepted and used. I think the main tenets of it, it being kind of crypto and Web3 and blockchain technology, open a lot of doors, but with those doors comes some risk. So I think that there's a long way to go to get a lot of people comfortable using these technologies, but I think that the framework is there. We have to have people who build it responsibly.
Couldn't say it better myself. Thank you very much. So I guess this will lead us into our next question. But how can you see people utilizing Web3 to help marginalized communities preserve their identity and their sovereignty?
I think that one of the most powerful points of Web3 is the fact that it is borderless, giving people the opportunity in foreign countries to escape a highly depreciating fiat currency is incredibly powerful, so that you can allow these people to kind of preserve their wealth, for themselves and for their families. And that, in my opinion, is one of the key things, most important things that are being used to this or at this moment in time.
Let's see. Yeah, I kind of want to I don't know, for some reason I'm feeling a little bit mischievous and I want to stir things up a little bit, First of all, I just want to say thanks to everyone for coming out here in the midst of the deepest bear market that I've experienced so far. Now we know who the true believers in the room, but I just want to kind of push, I think the industry as a whole, we really need to be pushing ourselves more in terms of how we present ourselves to the external world, and so when it comes to marginalized communities, it's so tough when when
they see the surface of it.
Yeah, I mean, guys, let's be real. You know what I mean? It's the main way in which marginalized communities have been touched by crypto and blockchain to date are through scams. And so I think we really need to have that conversation as an industry about how we're positioning ourselves in people's minds, and there's a lot of work to be done there.
And I think a bit of the sad reality here is with trustlessness and permissionlessness comes this kind of unbound web. And this is kind of the result, the after effect. But the reality is the current way we interface with the web was not designed for the modern web. So I think there is still a lot of room for what we can do on the infrastructure side to prevent a lot of these hacks and attacks and social engineering prompts. And ultimately, where do you just see the grand ethos picture if we're able to solve all of these infrastructure issues? How could you see Web3 as truly being a tool to help these communities preserve their identities?
Well, sorry to keep going, but I think part of the challenge again is that talk is cheap, and I just we're seeing all of these things that I'm sure we've all been at a table somewhere trying to convince someone that this is real and there's meaning here. And yet when you look at the actual what's happening on the ground, it's just completely falling short of those promises. And I think that we just need to be critical of ourselves and look at ourselves and really ask ourselves, why is our industry in the gutter in the way that it is today?
I think a lot of it has to do with the huge information asymmetry that we experience in this industry. A lot of people see this as kind of an opportunity to make a ton of money and get in early on things, but in reality, if people are entering this industry without any knowledge or any form of due diligence, or just being talked to left and right by scam artists, it makes it very easy to fall susceptible to those things.
And why is it that the industry continues to attract those types of people? They seem to keep coming. Each cycle has a new set of scammers and scam artists, and so it's just really tough. And having been in the industry for a while, I just feel like it's like I'm going to turn into a skeleton waiting for this like utopian dream to come true, and the only people that seem to be benefiting as we go along are kind of the bad actors. And I think that's just something that we need to be upfront and open with ourselves about.
Yeah, I think that goes to that double-edged sword, right? Like the kind of the anonymous nature of using the chain, where you're just a number, right? It's kind of two things, right? Your address is just this large number. So you're anonymous on a personal level until you identify yourself, but then every transaction you make is public. So you have this dichotomy here, right? Where it's like everything you do is public, but you don't know who the who is, right? Mm-hmm. So that's one thing. But I think the part that's the toughest is, and especially when you talk about marginalized communities who oftentimes don't have access to technology the way that we just kind of take for granted, right? The technical literacy required to kind of use these tools that can be like kind of life-changing, right? When it comes to storing wealth independent of a fiat currency, or having the ability to vote in a provable out of local election with a DAO or something, that on-ramp to usability is still, that's the biggest problem, right? That's the problem that needs to be solved before this becomes ubiquitous, right? Because you talk to most people, not any people, everyone here probably understands how to do it, but you talk to someone about like the benefits of a DAO, blah, 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 all these things, and everyone's like, oh, that's great, that sounds awesome, I have a voice, no matter who I am, I have a voice. And you're like, all right, so you gotta connect your wallet and click this and that. They're like, wait, hold on, wait, what? And then that person has to learn not only how to use it, right, but also how to do it safely. Scammers come in.
So the question
is, easy, right?
Is it too late when we get to the point where we no longer have to worry about all these things? Is it going to be too late for these people?
Well,
because if the issue is,
there's always going to be marginalized.
There's an educational barrier to entry, is what we're all saying here, right? And not only is there an educational barrier to entry associated with onboarding, but also maintaining your security. Because of these barriers to entry, it's making it more difficult for these people to get in. By the time we create the infrastructure to make it so it's user-friendly and they don't have to worry about these things, is it going to be too late for them to be able to utilize this infrastructure to create a better life for themselves?
It'll be too late for some people, but when we get to that point, there's going to be another set of people who are marginalized, right? It's this circle of life. So I think we're moving in the right direction. There needs to be kind of a, similar to how banks have FDIC insurance, right? You get your stuff stolen, or credit cards, you have some fraudulent transactions and you could say, I didn't do that. You get refunded your money. On the blockchain, it doesn't really exist, right? You lose your stuff, tough luck. Like, that's the part that comes with owning it all, right? You have ownership of all these things. That's great. Pie in the sky, like, awesome. I am, like, everything I have, I own. There's no intermediate. That's what I want. But then when it gets stolen, you want an intermediary. So finding a technical solution there where it's easy for anyone, right? Not just a technical savvy person, easy for anyone to get a wallet and trust that their stuff is safe, but also benefit from the permission, or not permissionless, but the trustless nature of blockchain smart contracts. Like, that's when this starts to really benefit people.
I think this is a great catalyst for our next question. What do you all think the role is of local entrepreneurs and organizations in making Web3 tools and platforms more usable for marginalized communities? Is there a role?
I'll go.
I mean, I
Go ahead.
kind of parrot what I just said, right? I think it's not really a local responsibility. It's a global responsibility, because blockchain is global. It's not tied to a specific place. Now, if you want to start up a local organization that is going to help empower your local community by doing some instruction or having classes on how to use things, like, yeah, that can help locally. But I think it's really just like we have to have tools to help people utilize the underlying technology in an effective way.
I think Greg is actually a great example of this, the work he's done in Fall River. He's invited me down there quite a few times, and just seeing what they've been up to at the local government level and at even the higher level with the right across the border at the government of Rhode Island and the programs they're trying to implement in their school systems. Would love to hear about it, Greg.
So to wrap this question in kind of with the last one also, we started about last November with doing networking events to get just the term blockchain known, which goes to the bad rap. And when working with schools or city officials, different organizations, while talking to them, having to think like actively, all right, don't say that word. They're gonna think don't say this. While that's still like a thing, it makes it a lot more difficult to have to navigate through all of the yeses and check all of the boxes. But I have been seeing a lot of progress, and when it's shared with them in a way where you focus strictly on the benefits that it brings to the overall, you have nothing to do with any sort of money side of things. We've been able now to, we have a fashion and tech program starting in the high school out there in a couple of weeks, where we'll be able to bring in companies like N-State, people from Puma, to be able to share about how tech is being used in fashion. And so it's introduced to them in a way that they're excited about it, they can understand it, and they can get a clear insight as to what makes this tech more beneficial than the current options.
I think also taking a step back, looking at the ideal world where we have quote unquote wallets, whatever form that may look like in the future, where people or anybody of any age or any place of origin can easily interact with it in kind of an intuitive level. I think along with that, the democratization of information, especially potentially using leveraging technologies like AI and ML to look at the smart contracts that people are interacting with and identify, oh, this, like, raise a flag, this contract may have potential vulnerabilities, this contract has a backdoor. Getting this information that's difficult to disseminate now out to the people in a very easy to digest manner is going to be key in kind of like accelerating this adoption. And then going back into your question before about, is it going to be too late for some of these communities to interact with this technology? Yes, it may be too late in terms of whatever gains they may accrue in terms of price appreciation, but I don't think it'll be too late for them to find a better system. If you look at the systems we're using today, like, is it too late for somebody to use a bank? Is it too late for somebody to use the stock exchange? No, because it still provides the service. But being able to find a better alternative, there's always opportunities out there for that.
Thank you, Jack. Vince, would love to hear about what's going on at the Boston DAO and what you guys are doing.
Well, I think it's to me, it points to this tension, right? Because we're on the one side, we're talking about kind of infrastructure and tooling and improving that and making it more accessible, and how that allows you to kind of quote unquote take people out of the loop. So there's a little bit of a reliance on the kind of technical abilities of blockchain, but I think that there is a social element to this. This is why I keep coming back to it. It's not about trustlessness, it's about scaling trust. It's about allowing actual people to work with each other better and do more things better together. And I think that that's one of the tensions in this space that is really sabotaging us. This attempt to basically, it ends up basically casting this kind of blind eye to the social human elements of the space. And I think the result of that then is a bunch of just like scamming and bad actors, because human nature is not necessarily good by default. So when I think about things like the Boston DAO, we're currently in the process of actually organizing a more formal governance committee, which I'm participating in. We get to see each other on a regular basis. We hang out. I think that it's just a part of the equation in the crypto space that gets overlooked too often. The importance of real people, like the work that you're doing right now in Fall River. You're going in there. The reason that people are starting to, you've got these programs going is because they now know that you, Greg, are not a scammer and that they can trust you. And so I just continue to encourage folks that are building in the space in the room today to just not ignore that human element and this kind of obsession with like trustlessness and taking people out of the loop. I just don't think it's really working for us well right now as an industry. So just some thoughts.
I think there's two parts to it, right? I want the contracts I interact with to be trustless, right? Like I want to be able to look at the code and be like, all right, obviously I'm a technical person, so I can look at it and be like, oh, I know what that's doing, right? So like, I don't want there to be someone approving the transactions that I'm kind of going through. I want to be able to like, the tool I'm using, it's trustless because I trust the code. I don't trust whoever put the contract there, right? But then like the human element of building, right? Whether that's community or software or whatever, like people who are part of a community, you trust each other. Like if I know you and trust you really well and you have a part of my app that you're building, I'm gonna be like, all right, do it. If I hire someone out, just like you would in any other industry as well, I hire out and I don't know this person, but they're gonna do work for me or whatever, and I just deploy their code without looking at it, like, yeah, I shouldn't trust that person if I don't know them. But building the community helps you build stronger applications and networks. And so to your point, like, yeah, the community building part of it is important because that's how we lay the foundation for building something better.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily blockchain focused, right? That's just a human thing. Like, be a good person, meet good people, and as a group, do something cool, But
yeah, you should definitely never lose the pure human aspect of it. I mean, that's what makes us humans. And blockchain technology is definitely a double-edged sword because if you look at something like developing on-chain reputation, for example, to prove on-chain that you are not a bad actor, that you're actually trying to build something good. While that does have some value proposition to it, loading all of this personal data on chain can inherently have some risks that are associated with it. And then at the base layer, you're not trusting nothing, you're trusting the code. And so it's important to have confidence in the platform in which you're storing all of this personal data about you. And if you need to evaluate if that's something that you want to be a reality.
Yeah, and I just want to be clear. It's like I understand the use case and I understand the technology and I know what we're going for. I think it's more that I think we may be, as an industry, more over-indexed on the technical prowess of the technology, and we're kind of overlooking then the kind of softer elements of trust, community, marketing, branding, distribution. Like, we're really struggling on those fronts, and so just trying to call a little bit of attention to that.
Yeah, I'm a big believer of trustless products still have to be trusted.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
The reality is Uniswap. There's probably at least 1,000 Uniswap forks that exist, but the reality is 99% of all traffic is still on Uniswap, right? There's a sense of trust and credibility that comes with using the core protocol, right? Uniswap.org. While anyone could use any number of these forks, they could use any number of aggregators, they could even get slightly better prices, but they're just comfortable with Uniswap. They trust it, right? And there's beauty in simplification as well, right? They're not constantly updating their code or their front end or their back end. And trust is there. So next thing is really, do you guys know any great examples of any projects that are actually working to benefit communities directly? I mean, we've all probably heard of WorldCoin and their goal to create a universal basic income, but I don't think that's really yet to benefit anyone. People in Kenya might have made some money on the ground, but their government already blocked it. So are you aware of any projects that are actively helping people on the ground?
Outside of the kind of core protocols and chains, not so much, no. I mean, admittedly, I haven't gone looking for them. I'm sure there are some projects with some commendable aspirations that some may get off the ground, most probably won't. I think that the core technology is really the driver of leveling the playing field a little bit. It's the ancillary parts that aren't so like sexy and like, oh, we're doing this for global empowerment. Like the things that are just like making it easier to use. Again, I think that those are the projects that are actually going to make an impact there. But so yeah, I am not aware of any specifics myself, but I think as the ecosystem fleshes itself out, I think it'll just start to raise the bar a little bit.
Yeah,
A lot of people who try to promote like, oh, we're doing this for all the right reasons, generally are like, they're not. But I don't know. I don't trust anybody. So
Yeah, I think it's kind of a shame that this is one of the more difficult questions to answer on this panel. But I think that it's also due to the fact that we as a community, we haven't really built anything yet that's useful to the general public, never mind just like a specific set of people outside of this community. So I think that kind of needs to come first before we can actually do something like this. But the only thing that really comes to my mind is empowering creators that don't have the connections or the capital needed to put their work out there. Music NFTs are a really powerful thing right now. If you're in a music artist that's coming from nothing, you can easily kickstart your career, fund yourself, and allow your fans to kind of like bet on your success. But besides that, like, it's a tough question.
So, again, I would just, kind of brings me back to what I was saying at the beginning. The fact that we can use all the platitudes and, nice, high-sounding language about decentralization, democratization of power and wealth and all of that. The fact that, I guess, 2010, Bitcoin comes out, it's not 20. The fact that 13 years later, we are on a panel and we're still struggling to figure out how and if this technology is actually making an impact in people's lives, I think should raise questions. Why is that? And it demands, I think, just a deep look inside ourselves and the industry as a whole as to what are we really doing here and what is this really, really about? And by the way, if it really is just about, shilling and making a quick buck, that might be okay. But let's be honest about it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Don't go out there talking out of one side of your mouth saying, oh yeah, this is going to uplift humanity, and then not have anything to show for it. As I said, talk is cheap. So,
yeah.
Thank you, Vince. Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Jack. Do we have any questions from the audience? Oh, we got a question.
Well, it's not. Hello?
How's it going?
You guys hear me?
We can.
So it's not as much of a question as more of a statement. I feel like I disagree with that complete last segment of sort of like the fertility of decentralized services and crypto. The main reason why is that if you look at what's been done with central bankers and governments, when Facebook came out, particularly with Libra, that was like just kind of a promise of just the potential of actually democratizing kind of money, which was what Nakamoto was originally talking about, and it was completely killed by central bankers. In fact, I was in 2019 at a conference in Crypto Valley in Zug, and central bankers who were there were openly we killed it. So the idea that things haven't been proposed and actually worked on, I completely disagree with. It's a more effort of, if you look at things that are going towards decentralization and pushing, you are taking kind of power and control from elite established things. And it's like Frederick Douglass said, right? Power never concedes. So that's something that always needs to be mentioned when you talk about what's next, what's possible, is that you have existing interests that will constantly be like, no, we kind of disagree with the direction that this might be going, and so we don't want it to happen.
Anyone got a quick response to this? We got 50 seconds.
I think people have proposed a bunch of different things that would solve it, right? But I think if you look at Facebook and Libra, like that's just a massive corporation. They're not going to be the ones to do it, right? I think like if somebody comes up with a protocol that really truly allows for kind of global distribution of wealth and sharing and all these things, like they put the code out there, it's there, right? No one will stop it. If people use it, they use it. I think there are the larger established businesses that are tied into whatever financial market they're working in and under the government that they operate under, like that, it's going to be harder for them to do it. It'll take a somewhat rogue actor probably to institute something that actually works, and once people adopt it and it's on chain and the smart contracts are humming, like you can't slow it down. So that's my thought at least, but that's a good point.
All right, we're all wrapped up here. I'd like to thank everyone very much for listening to us ramble. Thank you for all of our speakers.